okay? No tell of the tape needed. These two men have been bitter rivals for over 40 years. These two men have promoted some of the biggest fights in the history of boxing. So with no further ado, I bring you Don King versus Bob Arum. In 1982, Bob Arum alleges in a Sports Illustrated interview that he had to pay off WBA officials in order to secure title shots and rankings for his fighters. The bigger question in my mind was why he paid them off at all. If he's so righteous and they were so dirty, surely the course of action would have been to go public with this information straight away and let the world know. It seems to me that Bob was happy handing the money out while it suited him. But as soon as he couldn't manipulate the situation as he pleased, he started snitching and tattletelling. Now, let me throw a little dirt on the WBA. This is a governing body who stood back while governing bodies of various sports all around the world were sanctioning South Africa for the injustice of apartheid. But no, the WBA refused to comply and took the money from the likes of champions like Piet Cruz and Jerry Coetzee and Harold Volbrecht. At least Don King, who had a stronghold in the WBC, didn't sink that low. Don did, though, probably breathe a sigh of relief when Mandela was made president of the country, abolishing apartheid on paper, but not in principle. However, Arum worked alongside Sol Kerzner, a South African accountant and business mogul, promoting fights in Kerzner's Sun City venue. The resort was made the topic by an anti-apartheid rock album titled Sun City by a group of artists who banded together calling themselves the Artists United Against Apartheid. The WBA and Arum, undeterred by the protests in America and the UK, continued to showcase their fights in South Africa in a very delicate and troubled time in the country's history.
You can't handle the truth!
In the early to mid-80s, heavyweight contender and future IBF champion Tony Tucker filed a lawsuit against Arum for what he deemed bad promotion, unsatisfactory purses. The results of the lawsuits are not very clear, whether they settled out of court or in court. In 1994, Arum was involved in a promotion called the High Noon in Hong Kong event. The fights were called off at the last minute when Barry Hearn withdrew his fighters when no purses were forthcoming. The blame was aimed at Arum by his business partners for not keeping his end of the deal, or so to speak. In the year 2000, in a federal trial, Arum was found to have bribed IBF president Bob Lee for over $100,000 to enable George Foreman to defend against Axel Schultz instead of a top 10 contender. He was able to do this by laundering money with his European agent and contact, Stan Hoffman. The affidavit was published on several websites as Arum laundered money through Europe to make the payments. This resulted in Arum being banned in a number of states in the US and unable to promote fights in Arizona. The FBI raided Top Rank's offices in 2004 for alleged match fixing. One of the fights that was put into question was the Oscar De La Hoya versus Shane Mosley bout, and some fights contested by Eric Esch, better known to the public as Butterbean. But I guess if Bob did try to bribe the judges in what was the 2003 rematch between De La Hoya and Mosley, he failed abysmally, because De La Hoya was Arum's fighter and Shane won handily. Arum also defended Antonio Margarito when he was found guilty of using plaster in his hand wraps. When Jim Lampley, Manny Stewart, Max Kellerman, and Arum himself held an open debate on the eve of Cotto Margarito II, Arum was roundly booed several times by the crowd, still trying to politic his way out of the situation. Lampley and Stewart and Kellerman, however, did not let Bob off the hook and unequivocally stuck by the assessment that Margarito had cheated against Cotto, just like he attempted to against Shane Mosley, and got caught. Don King allegedly stole millions of dollars from Larry Holmes by claiming to be Larry's hidden manager, which added an extra 25% of Larry's earnings. And if you add that to the fees that Don was taking to promote Larry's fights, you can see why Holmes was a bit vexed. Apparently, Don's tactic to negotiate with black boxers and black businessmen is to say, we are brothers and we must stick together. And then after gaining their trust, Don moves in for the kill. Allegedly, King stiffed Muhammad Ali for underpayment in the Holmes fight. Ali was suing King for $1.1 million. King allegedly sent one of his people around to see Ali with a briefcase enclosed with $50,000, but only if Ali dropped the lawsuit. Ali at this time was alleged to be in very bad financial shape, just as he was in physical. And he took the money. The terms he signed to even included that Don could promote any further fights that Ali may have. Apparently, when Ali's lawyer heard what transpired, he burst into tears. Terrible Tim Witherspoon, a fighter that King used to promote, apparently signed multiple contracts, some of which were to Don King's son, Carl. Don knew that as a promoter, he couldn't act as Tim's manager, similar to the Larry Holmes scenario where he claimed to be a hidden manager. So now he brings his son in to avoid any accusations of a conflict of interest. Carl was apparently taking 33% from Tim Witherspoon's purses. Mike Tyson, Terry Norris, and Chris Bird, all three managed to settle out of court for unpaid purses from King also. Don launched a $2.5 million lawsuit against ESPN, who made a documentary claiming that as well as the murder that Don did time for, he also caught another body, which he was never charged for. The documentary also alleges that Don King threatened to break Larry Holmes' legs. It also asserts that King robbed Meldrick Taylor for $1 million and threatened to have him killed. The lawsuit was thrown out of the court saying and citing that ESPN had not defamed King's name. So the scorecards are finally in. Which one is the biggest scumbag promoter? Don King or Arum? And the winner is, I'll let you decide that in my comment box. Peace out.